Welcome to Home's Room. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin. Home's Room is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor by Spotify is a total package podcast tool from getting started to distribution, in-app editing, and much more. They even help you monetize your podcast. All of that for free. With a web and mobile-based app, recording anywhere on anything is a breeze. Get your voice heard with Anchor by Spotify.
Hello, friends. This is Kaitlin back for another episode of Home's Room. Today, the student has become the substitute teacher. We are dubbing this episode 0, where I get to sit and actually interview the host, Matt Holmes. How are you today, Matt?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here with you.
Well, on your own show.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's a lot of work. So.
Absolutely. All right. So you wanted to sit down and have a conversation in this format so that your listeners could get to know you on a different level, correct?
Yeah. I thought it would be interesting. You know, I interview a lot of people. I have, kind of some stuff to say, but I don't like being the center of attention. So I figured it'd be fun to turn it around on myself.
Well, thanks for being my guinea pig. This is probably only the second or third interview that I've ever done. So let's jump right into it.
Oh, I love it.
I came up with a couple questions for you. And the first one is, what in the world made you want to start a podcast?
What made me want to start a podcast was listening to podcasts constantly. When I work, I get to listen to stuff while I work, and I consume a lot of podcasts. And a couple of podcasts were like good, and then they stopped being good, and I was like, man, I would love to do that. And then I started participating in the conversation on like my own end, and I was like, man, maybe I should do that. And then I just decided, I want to do it, and there's nothing stopping me but getting a microphone. So like, let's do it. If people listen to me, cool. If people don't listen to me, cool. Like, good.
What is, in my personal research that I've done about starting a podcast, I'm still not to the point where I can launch it or anything like that, but I have certainly learned a lot just sitting back and observing as an interviewee, and now as this is our third episode together, using the software we've been using, you sending me stuff about editing and audio and all the fun things. Do you find that starting a podcast is super accessible for everybody?
Yeah, actually I do. I'm an over planner, which is probably again why we click. I'm an over planner. So in November, I thought, man, I kind of want to do this. In December, I thought, man, I think I'm going to do this. And in January, I said, I'm going to create a plan. And I started looking into hosting sites. I went with Anchor because it just seemed a little bit more accessible. I thought about another one, which is Acast. And between the two, there wasn't very much difference, but more people I knew personally had started using Anchor. So that's what I went with. So I think it's super accessible.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So real quick, can you explain what those softwares are and why you think they are important for podcasting, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So Acast and Anchor are hosting sites. They do everything you need to do. So distribution. Anchor has a really cool, I guess, partnership with Riverside, which is the interface we used to record. And all of the other things that I've recorded on were terrible. Zoom was awful. I used another one where like the person was in a tiny box and I was in a big box and I didn't know where to look. So I was distracted constantly by myself, and that kind of sucked. But the main purpose of them is like they do all the brunt work, kind of like self-publishing. You create your podcast, you record it, they distribute it. And, if you want to monetize it, you can unlock achievements and things like that to get to the point where you can monetize, which I think is really cool. I think Acast has a more convoluted network, which is why I didn't go with it, because it just seemed like there was more to it than this. Anchor just seems super simple. You put your files on the computer or on your phone or whatever, and then you build an episode, write a description, press publish, and there you go.
That sounds super intuitive and very user friendly. So I am taking notes.
Good.
All right. Second question. The format of this podcast is obviously constantly learning, growing, interviewing people that you may not usually ever talk to. So what is your personal philosophy on learning and education?
I truly do believe that every day is a class. I'm, one of those, you never lose, you either learn or you win. So, I believe that. And I think going into any situation, I am always trying to find an angle. I'm one of those people that gets on a plane and knows where the exits are. I walk through a room and, I might have counted how many guys twice my size, how many guys my size are in there, just because I have to be aware. I have to be paying attention to all of those things. All of that to say that, at the end of the day, you can learn absolutely anything from absolutely everything. And if you stop and take a second to look at all that kind of stuff, you'd be surprised what you pick up. Like just even from the few conversations with you, I've learned a ton about like being more cognizant of people around you and how fleeting time is, but also like to enjoy that time, not to be stuck on, oh my gosh, what could happen at the next second, because you're full of joy, and it makes me that much happier to be around you. So it's like, man, I got to keep doing that.
Matt, I legitimately high five via the internet, because I legitimately needed I needed that reminder. And my husband even told me earlier this week, he was like, look, I think there's a couple chapters of your own book you need to reread. It's like, how dare you throw that back in my face? So keeping in the same vein of education, what do you think about accessibility of education? What are your personal thoughts about, in today's day and age, I got my master's degree because it feels like a master's degree is more of a bachelor's degree these days. But there's also a huge, huge issue with the cost of education, the student debt that it puts people in. I'm actually having conversations with younger people who are starting to figure out their options about college. And for the first time in my life, I'm actually hearing people say, I don't think I'm going to go to college. So what do you believe specifically about accessibility of education and a pitch about, someday your daughter is going to come to you and say, Dad, I'm going to have to go to college. What are you going to tell her?
Yeah. I have a lot of things to say about that. I believe that education used to be relatively accessible. The problem is that education is accessible 4 years prior to being obsolete. And now you go through whatever schooling you went through, you go through whatever programs you have to go through to get to that point. And by the time you're done, those jobs either don't exist, or the people that filled those jobs while you were in school aren't leaving, and it's hard to find a job. And that to me sucks. But, as far as, student debt, I went to Wyotech, which is a VOTech school. I graduated top of my class. I got almost every award you can get. The only award I did not get was only because I didn't have enough time left on my term to get it. If I had another 3 months, I would have gotten that award as well. Like I said, outstanding student, National Technical Honor Society, all of those things. I had all the stupid ribbons and stuff stuck to me when I graduated, which was annoying. But at the same time, it was good. But all of that being said, I struggled to find a job when I got out, unless I was absolutely willing to relocate and put my wife, and at that point, almost 2-year-old daughter, through the ringer just for the chance of a job in a state where we have no support. And that was a hard decision to make. And all in all, when it was said and done, that school got popped for predatory loans. So I had to go
Bro,
through, yeah,
what?
I had to go through a ton of back and forth with the government, and my loan would be paused, and they were like, don't make any payments. And then it would come back to like, okay, make your interest payments, because they're going to start, you might have to pay that back. So just make your minimum interest payments. And then it was like, don't pay anything. And then there was the whole thing with DeVos, was that her name? The like Secretary of Schools or
Yeah,
schooling.
DeVos.
Yeah,
Yes, I know.
yeah,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah.
Secretary of
So
Education.
when she decided to do all the butt fuckery she was doing to like the education system, it paused that whole thing.
What an accurate descriptive word of what she contributed. I 100% follow. But anyways, go ahead.
It was a terrible situation, so it paused all of that. And then maybe 2 years ago, I got a letter saying that, you know, all of your loans have been forgiven, and you you don't owe any more money on those debts. Don't, if they ask for any money, don't pay. You're released from that financial burden. And I was like, is this real? So I called, and they were like, yeah, it's real. What ended up happening is that school had to pay off all of their debts. They had to pay off all of their damages. So they just built a shiny new top of the line campus in California, had to sell every bit of it to pay for it. They doctored their numbers to get you to go. They, like I said, predatory loans, a ton of things. And if that's a small VOTEC school, I can only imagine what bigger schools are doing, and scholarships and things like that could get taken away. So you get the kid there, and then the scholarship is gone for something silly. And now this kid is out of an education because that scholarship was the only chance they had without burying themselves in debt. And that to me just continues that cycle of, you know, families living paycheck to paycheck to try and be better. And at that point, like, just find, like, if I had started out sweeping shops and just did that and didn't go to school, I could probably be in a shop I wanted to be in now, because I would have had, you know, 17 years of experience by the time I actually was going to join the workforce, as opposed to, you know, getting a degree in motorsports chassis fab. And, you know, it's just like, yo, man, like, I got the accreditations, I got all the stuff I need. Well, we like your resume, but all my guys have been here for 15, 10 years, and I don't see them leaving anytime soon. So if we get something opening up, we'll call you. That's
sounds
terrible.
like a really difficult field to like start to crack your way into, especially now that I'm about 6 or 7 years into my professional career. And my dad used to tell me this as I was graduating with my master's degree and trying to get a job. He would always say, Kaitlin, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. So to keeping with your example, if you would have started sweeping floors, that would have been 17 years of in the field education, and also 17 years of networking. So
yeah, exactly.
Who knows where that would have put you. And honestly, I'm really glad that I asked that, because I had no idea about any of that. And I feel like I have 40 million follow-up questions. First and foremost, as an investigator, I want to know who in the world is a whistleblower in a situation like that, and how does any of that even come to light?
I believe what happened with them, Corinthian colleges owned a bunch of accredited curriculums, and that was like the root of it. And what was, I believe, found was that company was in bed with somebody who got popped for predatory loans, and that created the environment where they started to look into all of their transactions and top to bottom all of the schools they were managing. And mine was just one of them. I think there was maybe 3 or 4 schools that got closed because of that, just simply because they were tied to Corinthian colleges. And I think that's the sad part, is they just wanted to get people through the programs to make as much money as they could. And I'm sure, kickbacks from people defaulting on loans, or, whatever it is, I can only imagine. So, yeah.
Holy crap. I'm also just sitting there thinking, like, what if you're a student and the school goes under the first year.
Yeah.
Like, at least you were done and out of there when all of that happened. But like, Jesus H. Also, I don't know
Yeah.
if you can hear my kids freaking out.
I actually can't, so I don't know.
Okay, good. Hopefully it's not awful for you in editing, but maybe it's just my mom super hearing. I'm like, oh my gosh. But anyways,
Definitely mom super hearing.
sleep regression and teething and all the fun things. But
Yeah.
that's probably my favorite thing about hanging out here in Home's room is that we keep it real. And if you can hear my kids screaming, then so be it.
It's a classroom. If you can't hear kids screaming at some point in time, I don't know what classrooms you've ever been in.
Are we in the public school system here in Home's room? Because we got... Oh, man. That is insane to me that that's ever even a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I want to do research about how often this actually happens.
So this is why I started a podcast, because everybody's got such an interesting story and you never know. And I always make the joke that my life is like a sitcom. The stuff that's happened to me, and I'm sure you can relate, honestly, like the stuff that's happened to me, it's like, I don't know how to begin to explain it. Like, how do you end up in that situation? And I was just one of the few that was smart enough to, like, when I got a letter saying, hey, we might forgive your loans, fill out this application, to actually trust that it was a government document, fill it out and send it in. And a lot of the other people didn't do it and didn't listen to me. And, like, I don't know whether they're still paying or not. I have no idea, or whether there's just got let go because they let go of all of them. I don't know.
That's awful.
Yeah,
maybe that's our next episode together, finding out facts about student loan debt.
Yeah.
Also, with how I wonder, because my husband's got student loans too, and that was a big thing that we went through in COVID was all that uncertainty.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine going through and being like, I don't even know if my framed pieces of paper are going to be worth anything after the whole experience too. Gosh, that's awful, Matt. So, okay, let me circle back to an earlier question then too, because now that I know all that, what in the world are you going to tell your daughter when she's to the point in her life where she needs to start considering what she's going to be when she grows up and what her path of education is going to look like?
Right now her thing is art, and I keep telling her, if you're about doing art, I don't care, like, and I said that, I think in our original interview, is I don't care if your room is dirty, if any of that stuff is not done, if you're in here, working away at art and you're improving your skill and you're passionate about it, then we're about that. We're going to try and get you there. And, this last semester, I think she dropped a class and picked up a second art class. And I'm so happy, because she has art for 2 hours and then a seminar class where she's in the same room, so she gets to continue to work on her art. And that makes me, like, thrilled. I love that she's finding something. If I had found writing and knew that it could be something when I was that age and pursued it, or had somebody that pushed me to pursue it, who knows where I would be. So for her, it's like, absolutely, there's scholarships, there's grants, there's all sorts of things that you might be able to get into just by pushing their craft and art now and going to school for art. And I literally, they're making money off of, like, art that doesn't exist in the real world. Yeah. So nobody can tell me anything. Yeah, exactly. Nobody can tell me anything about that.
Gosh.
Yeah. So,
holy cow.
Yeah.
So is she...
Pursue your passion.
Preach. But I'm also, like, especially when I think about, I'm not a huge art person. I am piecing together my own filming background back here, trying to soundproof, because I live by a highway right here. So I'm wondering too, when she's out in the workforce or wants to pursue being a creative, like, how much the field's going to change just with digital art even existing or being a thing. Like, I dabble in Procreate, but it blows my mind, the things that some people are able to create. And I'm like filling in tracing lines and stuff like that. And they're like 3-dimensional shading, all the things. And I'm like, holy crap. So has she displayed any interest in digital art or any type of digital mediums?
Next year, I think she's taking a digital art class, I think, is one of the things that she decided to take. this year I think she had one of her art classes is like 2D art, and then the other one is like 3D art or something like that.
That's
So it's
cool.
like more sculpting, and like she did paper quilling, which like I can't wait to see that, because like that seems wild to me. She just like curled up a bunch of paper and made a face. I think it's a character from a Marvel movie is what
That's
that one
cool.
is. So it's like I can't wait to see that stuff, because I know how hard she worked on it, and you know she made a gargoyle in 3D art, I think is what that one was, where it's like clay gargoyle. I can't wait to see what that looks like. She got to work on it a little bit today, and she was telling me about it on the way home from school. But I think that for her, the digital age is definitely hard to navigate. So I'm glad that she's getting introduced to it now, because she can decide whether she wants to pursue that or not. And
Oh my
you
gosh,
know,
yeah. That's
I suck at, well, I'm not good at digital art. So I try. I have a 3D printer, and I can draft car parts for the most part, but that is it. No, nothing else.
And in my line of work, we're getting trained on 3D printers and the illegal things that you can make with those concerning
Yeah,
firearms. So
yeah.
crazy world, you know? But 3D
That's
printers are actually pretty freaking cool.
You'll get a kick out of this. My wife wanted a planter for what is called a penis cactus. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but that is what it kind of resembles. So it is a 3D printed bust
Probably
of a
shouldn't
butt.
Google penis cactus.
No, you should not do that. I would not recommend. But yeah, it's a 3D bust of a butt. So there's a butt bust with a penis cactus, and
That
she
is
thought it was like the funniest thing.
awesome.
Yeah, so 3D printers can be good and funny and not illegal.
It's insane to me. That's awesome. I mean, maybe someday my kids will want a 3D printer, and then but even back in the day when I was actually still using TikTok, some of the stuff that I saw that you were able to make with 3D printers. Holy crap. Okay, next interview question. What is something that you think people might find surprising about you?
Something silly that's surprising is I can't snap. This is the thing that like that's always like my go-to thing when people are like, "What's something that like I can't snap." I have what's called a finger dexterity, so my fingers don't move right. I was supposed to like take up piano or guitar or something to try and get my fingers to move the way they're supposed to. So I can't hold pencils the right way. So my handwriting's usually pretty terrible. It's what makes it really small, because my fingers don't have the big sweeping motions that most people's do.
Really?
So that's pretty funny. I also broke them. I used to do freestyle BMX when I was younger. So like I have my pointer finger on my left hand curves out. So like even if I wanted to snap, I don't think it bends the way it's supposed to.
Wow. Okay. I'm like, hold on here. What? Matt?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Wow.
I just showed for the listeners. I just showed how crazy my finger bends the opposite direction. It's think about like a banana going like away from the curve instead of going like towards the curve.
Towards the back of your hand. Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Yeah. Okay.
That's a brake lever in between the handlebar and my finger, and I hit straight down with the front wheel, and my finger got stuck between the brake and the handlebar, and my hand kept going. So yeah, it was fun. I got broken ribs from that too. I got broken ribs from that one too. That one sucked.
I hate that. And there's like nothing they can give you for broken ribs either.
No, I know, it's terrible.
Suck it up.
When I played roller derby, it would pop out of place because there's nothing you can do for it. So like at that point, it just is. So I had a teammate, and she's like the perfect height, and like she's almost like the perfect like her name was Badonka Boom. So you can imagine she's like the perfect shape to push against and like get it to pop back in. And I remember the first time I had to do it, I was like, just stand there real quick. I need to hug you. And her face was like, what? It's like, my rib popped out. I need to like use your shoulder / side to like put it back in place. And she's like, is it gonna hurt? Like confused. It was so funny, but it worked.
So you can feel when your rib pops out.
Yeah, one of the things that does it is swinging your arm. So like skating, obviously you swing your arm a ton. So like when I'm skating really hard and like giving it like extra, it can dislodge and shift. Your ribs move as you breathe, so they're hinged. So that hinge, because of the break, isn't perfectly lined up. So there's times where like it'll get off kilter. So it just, yeah, it's crazy.
Gross.
It's pretty bad.
Really interesting, and honestly, definitely a better answer than I would have anticipated for a question like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I try.
So Matt can't snap, and also his ribs just float around,
Yeah. Yep,
doing
exactly.
whatever they want.
Yep, it's the thing.
Okay, this is actually one that I'm really excited for us to have some kind of follow-up conversation about, and just kind of ask it and see where it goes. What is something you would say to a younger version of yourself, whether it's advice, encouragement, anything along those lines?
One of the things that I always think of, I wrote a blog post about it, so there's kind of some stuff that I like. I wrote a like a pinned a letter to myself, to my younger self, and one of the things that always comes to my mind is slow down. I was in such a rush to get wherever I was going that I didn't take the time I probably should have taken to enjoy more. But part of it is I was put in like elevated situations before I probably should have been.
Yeah.
And, you know, being a little boy put in a situation where like you're the man of the house, air quotes, and, you know, responsibility on you when you're the youngest, especially, is just such a like a heavy weight. And I often like the biggest, I think, thing I've done in my life is forgiven myself for not being able to be that thing, and that I was never actually responsible in those times. Like that was an unfair ask. So no matter what situations I took responsibility for, or didn't, or couldn't stop, or couldn't do better, you know, like just I should just be like, hey man, it's okay. You should have never been put in that position in the first place, you know? So slow down. Just it's good, man. You're fine. It wasn't your fault. I think that is probably what I would go with.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, by this point, if your listeners don't know, both my parents are dead. So I absolutely understand what it's like to be in a situation where, you know, you have to grow up sooner than you really probably should have. So now, I mean, everything I do is pink because I'm loving on the past version of myself, and that is insane. I would like to probably go back and say the similar thing to the past version of myself too. It's incredible, Matt. It's not your fault.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's super
I think
insightful.
Healing is a journey that you have to go on, but you have to first be able to ask yourself the questions you don't want to answer. And I think that you can ask yourself those questions, and you know if you're lying or not, and you know if you're dodging the questions. Nobody else does. Nobody else cares whether you're answering those questions. So when you're in your head and you're sitting there and you ask yourself, why am I this way? And you know what that answer is. You know what to do. You know what you're trying to say and what you're not trying to say. So it takes being comfortable, being uncomfortable, being comfortable with yourself to answer those questions and see where it goes. And therapy does help in those situations for a lot of people. I did a lot of like book therapy, reading and learning about mental health, and, you know, asking myself the questions when they have like questionnaires, you know, sit with yourself for 5 minutes and ask this question and only think of this train of thought. It's terrible, but you know, sometimes it works. So
that's so uncomfortable. Ugh. I'm like uncomfortable just thinking about that. Ugh. But honestly, probably means that I need to sit and do more of it, Matt. So thank you for making that something that I'm going to have to probably sit and do.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of brain spotting?
No. What is that?
So brain spotting is like a type of therapy. It stopped me from doing therapy recently when I was going, because like it wasn't necessarily helping, but also it wasn't like, it's like kind of more like you're leading the therapy session, which that's not what I need. I need somebody else to lead it, because I lead everything. So
Yes.
like, which is why I'm happy to have you doing this now. But you know, you find a spot in your vision. So they use a pointer, you know, like they would be pointing at like a whiteboard or something with a little tip on it so you can see it. And you find a spot that is calming to you. And then you find a spot that maybe is agitating to you. And they move the pointer depending on what those spots are, and then they ask you a question, and then you follow those thoughts. And sometimes they use like white noise, or like, I can't remember what the other one was, but like the one I was listening to the most was like nature sounds. So it was like oceans and like jungles and forests and stuff like that. And then I had to stare at this pointer and kind of talk about my feelings, but just like follow the rabbit hole. And I'm a visual person, and as you are a vocal processor, so like I don't think it was doing as much as like she thought it was doing. I think she was like, man, you're really like self-aware, this, that, and the other thing. It's like, yeah, I said that when I came in here, and then you did like a self-led like therapy session, and I'm paying you like $150 a session for this. Like, this is not working for me. I can't.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole of accessibility.
Yeah, we'll have to do an episode on that too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, I might need to spend some time thinking about that one. Otherwise, I'm just gonna come in with like negative toxic energy. Good man.
Good, drop a bomb, kaboom. I like it.
No, okay, so brain spotting. I totally understand that, and I'm as far as the being self-aware thing is, something therapists have told me too, but that's not, being self-aware doesn't fix the problem. I don't know if you know.
No, it
that,
doesn't.
Matt.
It makes it worse sometimes, because it's like, I know that this is a problem. Why can't I fix it? Why can't I fix it?
So are there any other types of therapy that you've tried, or things that have worked for you in the past other than brain spotting, or reading, or any of that reading?
So reading and like listening to I don't want to say self-help podcasts, but mental health podcasts and things like that have probably done the most, because I can sit with myself, and I think I do the most thinking when I'm listening to something, which is why I listen to podcasts, which is why I enjoy podcasts. But the other therapy I did, we kind of just talked, and we got to a point where she was like, hey, you kind of seem like you have a handle on everything. And I was trying to get a diagnosis so I could get, maybe medication, or maybe officially be diagnosed. And she was like, honestly, I think that you would do really well from, these resources. And it was like pamphlets and books and things to do when you're feeling anxious, or things to do when you're feeling depressed, not actually treating it. And, it just kind of not put a sour taste in my mouth, but it was kind of the same thing that was just like 3 years earlier. So it's like I've had 3 therapy-ish like stints, and all of them did the same thing, where they were like, you're really highly functioning. We think that you can manage this on your own. So we'll just keep trying to do that. If it's ever too much, we might reevaluate. And for me, it's like, well, I'm here because it's too much.
Yes.
So if this doesn't seem like too much to you, then like, what is? So I guess I'll just keep living.
What a disservice to you too, because yes, resiliency is a great thing to have, and it's probably the only reason why both of us are still sitting here and able to have a conversation about therapy, mental health, and the things that have worked for you in the past. It's exhausting to be resilient.
It is.
But it's exhausting. So yes, resiliency is important, but how do you balance out, yeah, you're so resilient, Matt, but also, other than therapy that may or may not have worked for you in the past, do you do anything other than beat the crap out of people on rollerblade or roller skates?
Yeah. Actually, I retired, so I'm not a skater anymore. But 2 things back to the being highly functioning. I have 2 quotes that I kind of lay on people when they're asking me how I feel or what's going on or why I'm so down, or, you know, when I'm not myself. Cause believe it or not, I sometimes am sad, even though I'm joking around. You know, it's weird, right? But the first one is, you know, age old, who saves Superman? You know what I mean? Like, there's times where Superman might need rescuing, and somebody's got to be there to help Superman out. So like, don't forget that as friends, don't forget that as family, don't forget that as just like human beings. Like, remember, there's times where your strong friend or your strong people might need you. And the other one that I tell people all the time is, you know, I you may have had experience with this, I don't know, because you've dealt with a lot, and I'm sure you've had some people console you when they like absolutely see it, but other times it's kind of like nobody hugs the strongest person in the room. Usually they hug everybody else or wait for you to hug them, and you're doing the hugging, so it's not the same thing. And I believe that, you know, to my core, like when you're the heavy in the room, when you're the thing that everybody looks to for guidance, to everybody looks to be able to solve a problem, or, you know, run through that wall, whatever it is, half the time it's like, oh man, why are you angry today? It's like, I'm not angry, I'm depressed. Like,
Yeah.
there's I don't know, I'm not okay, but cool, thanks for like making me feel like I'm a problem for my feelings. So I'm just gonna go over here and be quiet now.
I relate to that so much, and you hit the nail on the head, Matt. So thanks for that. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we don't really have a positive, or like don't have all the answer to the world's problems on that front, because again, being self-aware does not fix the problem. And usually
Absolutely.
people don't want to come up and hug me because I have RBF. So that's resting bitch face for those that do not know. In some situations, in a lot of social situations, I am too. But I think there's something to be said too. Yes, depression and anxiety, they don't present themselves in the same way for everybody. So have you noticed that in the past, where you are feeling one way and people may not understand that because you're either really good at hiding or burying it, or it just presents differently than what people may believe is normal?
I think a little bit of both, honestly. So for me, one of the big things is like, I'm usually shorter, so like my response, I'm already pretty dry with a lot of my like humor, and if you say something stupid, I'm gonna respond in kind, and I'm gonna be joking, but it's gonna sound serious. So it becomes that much worse. And I think when I know, I usually call it the weight. So when I'm feeling it come on, when I feel, you know, anxiety or depression, whichever one it is, I just call it the weight. Like, that's what I've come to describe it as, because it just encompasses it all. When I can feel it coming on, usually I just try and get quiet. I just try and, you know, put in music. I try and think about something I want to do, something, you know, my girls, whatever it is, to try and like curb it as much as possible until I can go to a place where I don't have to worry about it. But you know, I hate to say this. I don't think that anybody I work with is going to listen to this, but I was going through, you know, a tough day, and a guy I work with was like, I don't know who pissed in your Cheerios, but, you know, you're walking. And I was like, I'm good, dude. Like, in my head, it's like, I'm dealing with a lot on the other side. So like, I'm not going to tell you about it, but like, whatever. And then we had a conversation, and he's like, you're walking around here like you're this and you're that, and kind of like started laying into me. And I was like, I just asked you simply a question, but like, whatever, that's fine. I feel the way you do. And then afterwards, you know, it kind of just hit me. I was like, man, you know, like, if I was, you want to be a good person, and if I was going through something and that was, and you suspected that, and that's how you responded, that says more about you than me, man. Like, that's not a good way to be. I know if I saw somebody that seemed like they were angry, I'd be like, yo, you good? You know, do you need to take a half day? Do you need to go, like, do you need to go take a break or something, or chill? Like, you want something from Starbucks? Like, whatever it is, like, try and figure it out. Not be like, well, you're being a dick. So like, nah, that's not how it should be. So
Oh, I feel like that's going to be a whole other can of worms that we could maybe dive in someday, because I see a lot of that being very gender focused, especially in both of our lines of work. I don't know. Maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to jump into it. I mean, I can also say, you know, like for me, like I said, I retired from Derby, and part of the reason I retired is because I just didn't feel like it was my world, and I don't feel like it ever necessarily belonged, and it always kind of hit me with like this weird feeling of like 9% of the people liked me, and like 3% of those people like genuinely understood me and liked me, not just liked what I could do for them. And everybody else was like, fuck that dude. And you know, it's like, I don't need to, why am I like devoting so much time to this thing, to be good at this thing, to try and like build other people up in this world, when I got like two little girls that love me and want me around, that I'm like not with cuz I'm here. So I was like, you know what, man, like I'm going to be done. I don't need people treat me some kind of way, because I'm just trying to make the best situation for everybody, not just for myself, or not just for my team, or not just for this person because they're in my clique, not just because that person, because we came up together and now we're like locked in. Like I'm not about that. So.
Wow. Also, maybe you can prevent your rib from floating around more if you're not. Yeah. Oh, man, the things that we sacrifice as parents. What's a parenting lesson that you wish you would have learned sooner?
This one's gonna sound really weird, I guess, but I wish I would have learned how to be open about everything. Like we're trying to turn the corner about, you know, like the sex talk and, you know, things like that, body positivity, all that kind of stuff. So like I wish I had like understood that sooner, so that any kind of like notion of that thing prior wouldn't be there, and my oldest daughter would be more inclined to like see me as a friend, see me as a like a parent that they can have that conversation with, and not be like, that was weird. And we're getting there, but like I wish I had thought about it sooner. And you know, like there's books now that say if you talk to kids, I think it's like age 5 or 6, and name body parts what they actually are, don't use other names for them, they're like, I think it's like 45% more likely to have less shame about their body growing up. And I think that's crazy. That's just like something simple that I wish I would have known. So
it's really encouraging, because I'm already teaching my 18-month-old that she knows none of that frou-frou stuff. I want her to be able to clearly articulate to me if she's coming to me someday not feeling safe because something happened to her and her body. I want her to very specifically be able to tell me what the issue is. So I really respect that. Do you think that some of that subject matter is impacted? Hold on. Do you think that if you had sons, you'd be broaching that topic differently?
If I had sons, I think that I would, not necessarily differently in the way that like my least favorite thing is oh man, you got a girl, you gotta worry about all the dicks, I just gotta worry about one. I hate that with a passion, because it's like no, it shouldn't matter. So if I had a boy, or if I had boys, I think I would try and teach them the same way, but also like growing up as, you know, the boy that I grew up with all women, so I didn't have the like, you know, rah masculinity thing when it came to like how you treat women. But also my dad wasn't like that way towards women, so I didn't get an example of that at all for anything. And you know, him and my mom were partners when it came to most things, or at least that's what it seemed like to me. So I would teach them the same stuff I learned, and you know, respect above all else. And now, like, you know, consent is, what you got to listen for no matter what it is, and consent can be taken away at any point in
stand a
time.
consent king. Oh, you dropped your crown. Yes. Yes, Matt. Thank you. I feel like that's something that is so different from when I was growing up. Like there's obviously, and I don't know, please chime in, because it feels like to me, maybe I'm just a much more open person, but I grew up in the Bible Belt. We grew up, straight up, don't have sex or you will get pregnant and die kind of, that was our messaging that we got about it. We just got scary, horrifying slideshows of STIs.
Yeah.
And there's a don't do this because this is what's going to happen to you. But now, specifically, I feel like there's so much, the conversation around it has changed so much that I don't know. Maybe it's just because I left Missouri for a couple years and I lived in blue states, or I just got out of Jefferson County, or I don't know. That's incredible. And also super encouraging that there are dads like you out there that have this a similar sentiment with their own daughters too. That you got it. And honestly, maybe me and my daughter need to just start taking jujitsu together.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things too that, as a girl dad, I love being a girl dad, and my, like teenage daughter, this is the time I was excited for. And this is the time that like really matters who you are as a parent. Everything that they're going to be, you've already instilled on them. That's already a thing. So whether they're going to be, a mannered kid, or whether they're going to, say thank you or please, you've already built that. The thing that they are now is how they react to the world and how they interpret and navigate situations. And if you react like, God damn it, that's so terrible, they're going to start to realize that that's how you react when the world kicks you in the teeth. And then they're going to reside inside that. And if you are like, hey, this sucks, but now I can move on and try and figure this other thing out this other way. Or, hey, that guy's a dick, don't talk to him. If he's not treating you right, don't be around it. That's what's important.
Wow.
Now.
I feel like I should have grabbed my pen and paper and taken notes today, because you're dropping all kinds of parenting gems that honestly I need to hear right now. So thank you for that. It's very, very encouraging. It's hard out here in these parenting streets. Good Lord, man.
It is.
All right. I got 2 more questions for you. What is a struggle? And I know that you keep it real and that you respect your listeners and your viewers enough to keep it real, but I hope that you are also specific. Like, keep that in mind before I ask this question. What is a struggle that you've overcome that you are extremely proud
of? So I kind of touched on it before, I guess. I mean, forgiving myself for, a childhood of servitude and being of service to something that I didn't choose. So I would get volunteered for stuff. I would get treated like I had to do these things. Like all of this stuff was expected of me. And then it became more than expected. It was required of me. And for a long time, I sat with perfection or nothing else. And I guess COVID, everybody's got a COVID story. So my COVID story, like everybody was off work. I was working at a sporting goods store as an FFL, which is, like I sold guns is the best, like the easiest way to sell it, to say it, at a sporting goods store. And I was a key carrier. So all of us, the sporting goods stores, got deemed as essential because we sold survival equipment. So, and like clothing, I guess too, but we got like 4 days off and then had to report back to work. And it was just the key carriers, just the leads. So everybody was at home complaining like, man, I got all this time, I don't know what to do. And I was like, man, you know what? Like, I got all this time. I'm going to work on myself. I finished my book, my second book. I wrote my third book. I started doing stuff to get my mental health in check. I started like sitting with questions like, why am I this way? Why am I angry? I had a lot of resentment towards my father, and all of those things were like things I took care of. Then I said, it's not on me. The resentment I hold towards my father is anger that like I didn't get to be a kid. I jumped straight into, essentially like I said, I grew up in a kind of preppery way. So I jumped straight into being a soldier, to being ready to go and do whatever I had to do at a drop of a hat. I was learning to fight, shoot, throw knives since I could stand. And while that was fun, that wasn't a childhood specifically. Like, do I have all of these reflexes and skills now that make me good at what I do? Absolutely. But at the same time, that's just not the best conducive way to like get a kid to feel like a kid. So,
Wow.
I had to like put that on him. That's not on me. I shouldn't feel bad about that. He shouldn't necessarily feel bad about that, because that was the choice that he made. He did the best he could with the knowledge he had at the time. And, before COVID, I wouldn't have been able to say that. So, I think that's the thing that I think I like struggled with and overcame. The thing I still struggle with is forgiving myself for shortcomings, because I'm hard on myself, because I know I'm capable. And if I'm failing, that means I didn't quite figure something out. Like this podcast thing, I wanted 10 episodes in the bank before we got started, because every podcaster fails because they don't have enough episodes. And then they're trying to struggle to keep week to week. They got to edit. They got to do next week's episode today, and then try and do it. I didn't want to deal with that. I wanted everything to be laid out, to have time to adjust, to have time to look at numbers, to have time to like, hey man, like this isn't working, and not be like interrupted of service. So like I plan to do everything as successfully as possible. So when I don't succeed, I got to be a little bit nicer on myself. Like my team, Public Enemies, roller derby, I still feel bad that I could never bring you a championship as your coach, specifically because you deserve it. You are the hardest working bunch of motherfuckers out there. And it kills me. It kills me. If I was ever to come back, it would be just to make sure that happens. If it doesn't happen in the next year, I hope that you win this year, even without me at the helm, because you deserve it. So yeah, being easier on myself.
Yeah, they deserve it, but you gotta earn it too. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Okay. Follow-up thought based on your response. Do you know how exhausting it is to be the generation that's like fighting to break generational trauma? You know how tired we all are? Good God.
Yeah. I hate, the like whatever it was. It's the Dixie Chicks like taught me how to hide the body. Miley Cyrus is out here telling you could buy yourself flowers. We're not the same, talking about a generational thing. It's like, yeah, because you're violent and angry because you didn't learn how to deal with your feelings. Miley Cyrus's generation is out here saying, hey, my feelings are valid. And you know what? You're invalidating them. So bye-bye. I don't need you. That's a better thing. Sorry.
I don't think they're ready for that, Matt. Damn.
I don't think so either. But like, to me, yeah, like I can't. That seeing that meme, I hate meme culture in general. Like I've made some memes, but I hate meme culture in general, because I think that like if it's memeable, it's now taking everything to make it not important, and now it's a joke, but it was something serious. Like, could you imagine if like George Floyd was like memed?
Oh God.
And I'm sure somewhere on the internet it is, and that's disgusting. Why is that even a thing? So like, a meme like, we're not the same because you have feelings and you're trying to validate them, and I was angry and was going to kill my boyfriend. Matt, that's not the same thing.
I know for a fact that George Floyd memes exist because they were all over the place with all the riots in Denver, and it was all the stuff about Antifa and the protests that did turn into riots. Let's be very clear that there were groups out there that were exercising their First Amendment protected speech, and there were, in my personal experience, where I was and the job that I was doing at the time, when the sun went down, it was a different crew that was coming out. Those people were memed.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of those things where it's like, it just, like I said, it's a cultural difference, like you said. And I think that, for me, if you're out there and you're sad, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be like, man, I'm not okay. And I hate that people are out here saying, fuck your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
No, like that's not, no, your feelings are valid. Like, bottom line.
Period. All right. The last question. And I want you to reach for the stars when you come up with 3 names. Who would be on your dream list of people to hopefully maybe someday interview right here on Holmes Room?
All right, so I cheated a little bit on this one because I knew what the questions were, and this is the only one I wrote notes for because I was like, man, I have to think about this one because I would not be good on the spot. So I have a list, and it's funny that you said 3 names because like for the most part there's 4 names, but 2 of them are conjoined, and the other one's not a name. So okay. I will put an asterisk next to it. So Theo Rossi, who was Juice on Sons of Anarchy. He's been in a ton of movies as a lot of side characters. He was in I can't remember what the name of the movie is with Kevin Hart just recently, where like he was, I don't remember if he was challenged or what it was, but he had like a slight disability, and it was just such a good acted role. But Theo Rossi, him and Kim Coates did a podcast reviewing the episodes of Sons of Anarchy, and it was such an amazing podcast. I learned so frigging much about culture, about the way an actor just works, the things that happened on that set that like created this brotherhood that we saw on screen, but like was behind the scene, like so many things. And that like helped me on my healing journey. So Theo Rossi would be one. John Bernthal, who has another podcast, Real Ones, because dude is a real one. The stuff that guy's been through in his life and made it back from is just amazing. So to talk to him and be able to just be like in awe of his journey and his realness. If I can do one thing with this podcast, it's to be as real as he is and to have the conversations that he has with people that like are, in my opinion, outside my weight class, but like, fuck it, we're going to do it, you know? This is the non-name, anyone from a major racing series would be amazing because I'm a race guy, I'm a car guy. So like any racer, any like an engineer, even like, I don't care. It would be cool to talk to and just be like, man, I'm a geek out. And, you know, lastly, April and Amy from the Shameless Sex podcast, I friggin' love them. They taught me so much and actually made me kind of want to become a sex educator because there's so much that like there's shame about, and there shouldn't be shame. And it just takes an open conversation to be like, oh shit, other people feel this way. And they're funny. They support each other, and they might not have all the answers, but they're talking to people to learn, and they encourage that. And that's what I want to do here is, you know, also like encourage people to learn, but also encourage people to be shameless about the way they live and, you know, like enjoy their life. And they embody that. And I think that's pretty friggin' awesome personally. So
knock that answer out of the park. That is fantastic. Yeah. Wow.
It's like, honestly, it's a hard question because like, I believe so many people have amazing stories, and, you know, there's a lot of people that are, you know, just like, hey, I'm an open book. And I just wonder, you know, how often people think like, how I'm going to go ask this person that said they're an open book a really like deep question. And I don't know how often it happens. So like, I want to do that. I want to ask people deep questions. I want to be part of those conversations. I don't want to be afraid to answer a question because like, what if I say this? Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Like I want people to enjoy the answer because it's real. I want people to enjoy the answer because they can relate to it, because it strikes a chord with them and they're like, damn, I've felt that before. Like that's what I love.
And I definitely, speaking from experience, as this is our 3rd episode together, you are absolutely making great strides of making that a reality here on Holmes Room. But that's it with the sappy shit.
I like it. Well, so just for you, there's one more sappy thing I got to do. So I just finished your book today, and I love it. I love it so much. I learned so much from your book, and the ending, um, like I had to bookmark it, which my bookmark fell out when I picked it up just now, which is also unfortunate. But I gotta get to the page. We're trying to wrap it up. It's 59 minutes.
Oh,
I gotta
fine.
go. Like life won't wait. I love it so much. Everything. If you read any part of this book and you're like, something's not for me, just at least read that part. Like, just read that part, because life won't wait. And that is answering your question earlier why I started a podcast, because life won't wait. Life is just gonna keep going.
It absolutely will not wait. That's amazing. And on that note, let's go ahead and close out this week's episode. Thank you for being real with us, Matt. And all your listeners and viewers, I'm sure, appreciate it. But if there was anything that I didn't touch on that maybe people want to know more about you, is it okay if they reach out to you or submit it in the comments or send you a messenger pigeon or something? I really think there's a lot of utility with you trying to build a community here, all those things. Keep being real.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out, DMs, whatever it is. I don't care. Ask me whatever you got to ask me. I am an open book.
Good deal. All right. Well, we will catch you all on the next one. And that is us here at Holmes Room.
Bye.
The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.